I just found out my dead best friend's daughter might be my husband's, and he's saying she probably is, but that it's not what it looks like. I don't even know where to start. The past 6 months have been an absolute train wreck and it only seems to be getting worse. My 33F best friend since elementary school, who I'll call Alice, passed away in February from cancer. She had a 2-year-old daughter who went into the custody of her mom after she passed away, who I'll call Alexis. Last month Alexis showed up on our doorstep unannounced, telling my husband, 36M, he needs to take responsibility for his child and either take custody or start finally paying child support. She says that Alice had told her when her daughter was born who the father was, but didn't want anything to do with him. To answer the inevitable, Alice was a traveling nurse and made a lot of money, which is the only reason I can think of for why she didn't go for child support. During this conversation my husband had the worst panic attack he's ever had, so we had to end the conversation before I could get more details. My husband's story is, I don't even know. He said that Alice's daughter is probably his, but that it isn't what I think. Almost 3 years ago we threw a large housewarming party as we just moved into our dream home, after I finally finished residency and was set to make real money for once. Alice was in town and set to be at the party, but I was called into work before she got there. I didn't get back till after 3 a.m., party was winding down, my husband was passed out upstairs, and Alice had already left the party, which at the time I did find strange as we hadn't seen each other in months, and I thought she really would have wanted to see me as well. My husband claims he woke up in the middle of the night to Alice on top of him, but he passed out again before he could say anything. He claims he never told me because he was worried I wouldn't believe him, which I really don't know if I do. He showed me some texts he sent his best friend the next day asking for his advice about him thinking someone SA'd him, but if he cheated he could have had that conversation as evidence, especially since he never said Alice specifically. Ever since the party he has been very distant with Alice, and after she had her daughter he would even find excuses not to be around the house when she would visit at all. I don't know if that's because he cheated, or if Alice did actually SA him and this was his trauma response? Honestly Reddit, I don't know what to do. I've known Alice since we were children and she had never come across as that kind of person. But I've also known my husband for over a decade and he's not once ever given the inclination of a cheater. He's an attractive guy and I've seen the looks he gets at the gym and he's never even given more than a glance. What the hell should I do? How do I figure out what the truth is here when Alice isn't even around to defend herself? She never even implied she liked my husband, let alone wanted to sleep with him. I told my husband he needs to get a DNA test before anything is decided on the child's part, but in the meantime he needs to move out while I think about what I'm going to do here. Relevant comments. Commenter, did Alice change behavior after that night? Anything at all? OP, not that I noticed. She'd always been at least a little standoffish towards him as she thought I could do better. The first time she visited after she gave birth, she asked where he was since he wasn't home, for the first time, but she never asked again after that. Commenter, obviously DNA test. His story does sound wild, but he wouldn't be the first. Is he someone who tends to drink a lot at times and black out? OP, not at all. He rarely drinks and generally only at parties, which at our ages are few and far between. He works a tough and stressful job, so I figured once he was buzzed he laid down and fell asleep, not that he had drank more than normal or anything like that. Commenter, would she be the type of person to sleep with her best friend's husband consensually? OP, I don't know, and that's part of the problem I guess. I went through everything with her, so to reconcile the woman I knew for most of my life with someone that would betray me in either way is so hard. Commenter, is your husband the conniving type? OP, he's smart, smarter than I am, which, not to sound conceited, means he is really, really smart. He does think tank type work as a contractor, so planning things is literally his job. If he ever thought he could get caught for cheating, I think he'd be smart enough to cover his tracks. Commenter, who did Alice say was the father of the baby? OP, she told me it was a man she met while in another state for work. Short-term fling. Commenter, and how did your husband react to Alice's death initially? Did his response seem normal, or like what you would have expected? OP, I honestly don't know. I was going through a lot at the time, understandably. I didn't notice any changes in him. Commenter, why does he need to move out? Your friend SA'd him, and he even texted his friend the next day. OP, I needed space to think, it's only temporary, for a few days at most. I've been trying to think on this for the past 2 weeks, but it's impossible to do when he's here, as all I can see when I look at him is my best friend. Dealing with her death the first time was hard enough, adding in the new feelings of betrayal, if it was an affair, or betrayal and disgust if it was SA, are making it even harder. Commenter, she would have told you on her deathbed if it was an affair. But she didn't. That only makes sense if she was in the wrong. OP, thank you. I don't know what it is about this part, but it just clicks with me. You're absolutely right. With her level of disdain, if it was an affair she certainly would have told me, if only to separate us, especially on her deathbed. I was in the room with her, holding one of her hands. She obviously took this to her grave, and the only reason she would is if she SA'd him probably. Thank you. Update on the same post. After talking with you guys, I've come to the realization that my husband is being truthful. My best friend SA'd him. Several people pointed out that with Alice not liking my husband, if it was an affair, she would have told me when she was dying, if only to separate us. You're absolutely right. I was there, in the room while she passed. I held her hands for days, we talked about so much. If it was just an affair, she would have told me. But if she essayed my husband, she wouldn't have said a word. That's the type of thing horrible people take to the grave. I've also come to the realization that I made a terrible mistake asking my husband to leave for a few days while I gather my thoughts. Not to make excuses, but losing my best friend to cancer, a long cancer fight at that, was brutal. To say that I was devastated wouldn't do it justice. That it happened only 6 months ago, and I'm still feeling it every day. So to have this thrown on me? It's like I'm losing her all over again. Either she betrayed me and screwed my husband, or she betrayed me and essayed my husband. Not only have I lost her, but now I've lost the good memories, an entire lifetime's worth. It was impossible for me to look at him and not also see her, and be struck with the horror and realization of that loss all over again. I felt I needed to be able to break down, grieve, and think without the fresh wave of loss I got every time I saw him. It was wrong of me to ask him to leave, you're right though, and as of a few minutes ago I've righted this wrong. I called my husband, I apologized, told him I believe him, and begged him to come home. He'll be here in half an hour at most, and I'm going to support my husband the way I know he would have supported me. I've been an off and on Reddit user for several years, and sometimes the advice given on subreddits like these can be a bit hit or miss, but today you guys did good. You've helped me realize not only that I was wrong and being stupid at that, but that I was hurting the person that needed me the most. I was selfish. I have no idea what we're going to do as far as the potential daughter is concerned, but I can assure you we'll deal with it together. It's going to take a lot of time, and probably a lot of therapy, to grieve this new loss. I feel numb now, as though I'll never cry again. My best friend essayed my husband, which means she was no friend of mine. She flaunted it, coming to my house, sitting with me, and gabbing. She brought her child here trying to rub it in his face right in front of me. She tortured the man I loved, and I was an unknowing party to it. I feel sick to my stomach over how many times she came over, just to hold it over him. I'm honestly at a loss on how to make that up to him. If you all have any ideas, please feel free to give them to me. I think I'll need all the help I can get. Tomorrow I'm going to take a leave of absence from work, just until we can figure out our next steps and we can get our heads on straight. Thank you everyone. Update, 7 months later. I've received a lot of messages asking for an update, so I've decided to finally sit down and write one out. As you can imagine, after the train wreck that was thrust upon us, this update isn't likely to answer any of your questions, only present a few more. I want to start by telling you all that I love and trust my husband. My reaction to ask him for space to think in retrospect was wrong. But at the time I didn't know what to think. It was a combination of losing my best friend again, and also the fear that I was losing my husband, that sent me spiraling. Again, it was a mistake to ask him to leave, and I did rectify that in the end. Now for the update. As mentioned in the original post, I did take a leave of absence from work, and we spent a long time just being together. Talking, reaffirming our love for one another, and figuring out what to do next. We of course spoke with a lawyer, and my husband was very adamant about not having anything to do with the child, but was willing to offer financial support as needed. So we agreed to do a DNA test immediately to prove paternity, and then go from there. Didn't know you could buy tests on Amazon, but with only a few weeks processing it was the easiest path forward since Alexis lives hours away. To everyone's surprise, Alice's daughter is not my husband. We ended up testing twice, both very definitive. The first test we performed ourselves as mentioned, and another after Alexis refused to believe the first test, and took my husband to court for child support. For a single second this whole thing made me second guess if my husband was essayed, that this could have been her way of forcing my husband to admit to an affair. But after talking with Alexis, I don't think that was the plan. Alexis says that Alice told her my husband was the father under strict confidence, demanding that she never, ever tell me or my husband. We were only ever to be told if Alexis died before Alice's daughter was old enough to take care of herself, so that she wouldn't end up in foster care. The only reason Alexis came to us then instead of keeping that secret, is because Alice's life insurance wasn't being released yet and she was out of options. She also felt I should know my husband and her daughter had had an affair. This all reaffirms in my mind that Alice did essay my husband, with the expectation of getting pregnant with his child. She obviously had other partners at the time since one of them fathered her daughter, but no one knows who. It's clear to me that Alice believed it was my husband. I did suggest Alexis upload a sample to Ancestry, see if any matches pop up, but as Alice traveled all over for work I don't know that anything will ever come of that. In truth, I've washed my hands of the situation. Alice did enough damage and I don't particularly plan to be around for any more. My husband and I have gone through a lot of counseling and will likely continue for a while. This whole situation damaged us both, my husband more obviously, and I don't think we'll fully heal for a very long while. To answer a few questions. No, sadly there isn't a hidden diary or text to explain what the hell was going on. My husband and I are not getting divorced. He understands why I reacted the way I did and has been strong when I was weak before. I've spent the past 7 months being strong while he was weak, so we're considering the whole thing even. We are still madly in love, and plan to be together for a long time still. More on this. No, we will not be adopting Alice's child. If she had been my husband's, we would not have been adopting the child. Ultimately I thank Reddit for setting me straight. There was a massive outpouring of support and corrective advice. To say I got a slap in the face would be a descriptive but apt way to put it. I needed it then, and I thank you for it. To say that you may have saved my marriage is an understatement. I do, however, have some good news. During my leave of absence, while my husband and I rediscovered what makes us love each other the most, I got pregnant. We're expecting our first baby, a girl, in a little over 3 months, and my husband and I are ecstatic. And no, we will not be naming her after my dead ex-best friend.